Hey, we're back with more Live from the Heartland on WLUW.org worldwide. And that was If I Can't Sell It by Lynn Jordan. And Lynn Jordan will also be at the Live from the Heartland benefit next Sunday, the 11th, from 3 to 7 at the former Red Line Tap, now being called the Heartland Bar. So, with all that said, I want to welcome someone who, I don't know if I've seen him recently, but we did go to a Cubs game together. And he's one of my favorite politicians, Larry Sufferton, who was the Cook County Commissioner. Good morning to you, Larry.
Good morning, Michael. Good morning, Katie.
Hi, Larry. Nice to see you.
Glad to be here.
You know, Michael, when he says that, I remember him
Which
getting
part?
one of my favorite politicians. I remember someone telling him, elected official, Michael.
Yeah, that's right.
Elected
Wayne, it
official.
would have been Wayne Fraser
or the
was
guy he
correcting
works for.
me. Yeah,
Oh, well, okay.
elected official.
Well, you know, no matter what I say, I'm a politician.
You are. And so is Sharon
You look-
Fairley, who was just on the show.
Right.
Even
Yes.
though
Once you run,
she's new at it.
Yeah.
That's right. And how's your race going this year?
Well, I have two opponents.
Yeah.
They're both to the right of me, which is kind of interesting. One's 20 years old and one's 30 years old. They're mad at me for passing a minimum wage bill. They're mad at me for passing sick leave. They're mad at me for supporting a tax on sweetened beverages. But, you know, I feel comfortable that my record will survive, and I look forward to new ideas that they may present. So,
I did meet the 20-year-old, and I listened to her talk on one of the first Mondays a couple months ago, and basically all I could say to her was, I'd like to know where you're going to be in 10 years. 'Cause
Well,
she's really quite a firecracker.
yeah, no, they're both very bright people, but I think the campaign is going well. You know, I'm in stealth government. Nobody knows what the county does. Nobody even realizes I'm a Forest Preserve Commissioner as well as a county commissioner. And so the services we provide are the services of running a court system, running a jail, running a hospital, running the forest preserves, and people don't think of those because we're not what you call when you need your snow plowed on your street, when you need your garbage picked up,
Right.
when you need a street light fixed. So it's a different kind of government, and so we'll see how it all goes. And there's so many high-profile races going on around us.
Yeah, I want you to know that I totally defended the soda tax and was proud of you for
Yeah, me
casting your
too.
lone ballot.
I mean, it does have some issues, but
Well, I mean, it was rolled out possibly incorrectly for the storekeepers, but storekeepers also, as we know, can be recalcitrant on reading the fine print. But, you know, in terms of people getting taxed for non-sugary beverages and that stuff. Other than that, you know, we're suffering from the results now, I reckon.
Well, you know, our last budget, we laid off 321 people. Now, there's stories in the paper yesterday that Sears was laying off 220 people. That's the largest layoff other than the county.
Yeah.
Earlier, there was 60 people laid off by one company, 65 by another. These are 321 people who had families. These are 321 people who did nothing wrong, provided service, did exactly what they were told. They were not feather bedders, and we had to lay them off, mainly because we couldn't put together our revenue and our tax policy to figure out how to run the government. And, you know, the tax I thought was a reasonable tax. I'm not going to, it's over now,
Right.
but I thought it was reasonable at the time because it wasn't a general sales tax, it wasn't a general property tax, it was a limited products that you could decide to buy or not buy.
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
they did 18 mailings, the soda pop people, against me.
Oh, I know.
And every time they did a mailing, I got more phone calls from people telling me, thanks for supporting the tax. So yeah, I live in a bubble, and I understand our bubble being 49 and
We
50.
like our
and,
bubble.
And the North Shore.
Larry, do you see any contradiction in you being a lobbyist, which I believe you were or may still be, and also being on the county commissioner and being on the Forest Preserve Board?
Well, first of all, I'm a lawyer who, in certain of my legal practice, I'm required to register as a lobbyist either at the city of Chicago or at the state of Illinois. I'm very careful what matters I take up. I've had nothing that has been in conflict with the county. The county commissioner's position is intended to be a part-time position. It was never intended to be a full-time position.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't see any conflict. In fact, I think my legal abilities have caused me to be more involved in drafting ordinances than any other commissioner. And I help people understand where we're going, especially on our litigation. You know, we have a lot of people who sue us for actions by the sheriff's office or actions at the hospital, and there's millions and millions of dollars involved, and I think my legal skills help us there.
Good.
You know, I've always appreciated Tony Preckwinkle's kind of adherence to developing a budget that actually works. I could be wrong about this, but until now, I feel like in her tenure, the county hasn't added greatly to the deficit that we face.
No, I think we've actually reduced it. We've reduced the amount of money that we're paying on bonds. We've reduced by $400 million what we gave as a subsidy to the hospital. I mean, our budgeting has been good, and one of the objections I had when my fellow commissioners who had voted with me on the sweetened beverage tax changed their mind is we did that away from the budget process. The budget process is a very good give and take, but when you repeal a revenue source independent of the budget, that's why we end up with 321 people losing their jobs.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
So why is the public so down on public workers, teachers, unemployment check writers, home care workers, etc.?
Because they don't have a lot of confidence in the economy, and they don't have a lot of confidence that they'll have their jobs, and the most important thing is they have no confidence that their children and grandchildren are going to do better than they have. They look at this whole educational system, they look at what's going on around them, and they realize the 99% versus the 1% is real, and that the majority of our people are in the 99%. And so they look at these governmental jobs as gold standard jobs, and they begin to resent that people have a pension.
Right. That's right.
They begin to resent that they have other benefits and get paid a living wage, which
Right.
used to be the standard. You know,
Which
a
we
living
want for
salary.
everyone.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. So I mean, I think that's part of the problem.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
And when you watch what's going on with this new tax bill, this federal tax bill is aimed at 6 states.
Oh, God.
We're one of the 6 states.
I know.
That $10,000 cap on state and federal, state and local tax deduction is aimed to really hurt Illinois, and it's going to hurt our schools, because even in the wealthy districts like New Trier, where they've passed referendums, people are not going to vote for those referendums to pay for more schooling because it involves property tax increases, knowing now it's not deductible. Before, they said, "Oh, I don't care. A better school helps my neighborhood, my kids, but I can deduct it." Now, without that, I don't know what we're going to do. We've got to really restructure all of our taxes, I think, here in Illinois.
Do you think if the Democrats do come to power in the House, in the federal level, there will be a rollback of any of these taxes?
You know,
Or it's gonna take 100 years?
One of the problems is once you've imposed the tax, and what the Republicans really did here is they lowered the taxes.
Yeah.
It takes a lot more effort to raise taxes. So I think we're going to see this as a struggle for the next 20 years
Oh, God.
to deal with the effects of this tax bill.
Yeah.
Even if we get control, and everybody's going to be afraid. You know, that's a number of elected officials who are timid is really disappointing to me.
Boy,
because-
I'll say, devout cowards.
Well,
Yeah.
certainly among all the Republicans, but among the Democrats too.
Oh, yeah, no, you know, we're very lucky. Again, we live in a bubble. We've got Jan Schakowsky in Congress, who is, an outspoken
Hallelujah.
leader. We've got
Cassidy.
Kelly Cassidy, who's just one of the
Hallelujah.
most remarkable
State reps.
people, state reps. And on the financial things, the budgetary things, Heather Staines has really been a leader in ensuring that pieces of the puzzle are funded that need to be funded
Right.
for the people who are in the 99%.
Right. Speaking of the 99%, I have this bumper sticker that's been on my car for a couple of years saying, if the 99% voted, the 1% wouldn't matter.
Well, I think that to a certain degree that's true, but what happens is the
Turnout.
99% are turned off and don't see that they really can make a difference, and the 1% understands they have to keep control.
Right.
And I'm for Daniel Bisp. Was another one of the great leaders, and I've been saying that ideas trump money. I think that Daniel would be a governor with ideas. He would be a governor who would try to change things for the positive. I see the status quo with the other candidates for governor.
I hear you.
So, do you think will we have the wherewithal across the state to unite behind whomsoever wins March 20th for governor, for state's attorney, so that we get those places
Well,
back?
Attorney General, we got a
Attorney
state's attorney.
General, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
What'd you- Okay.
I certainly hope that we will, because we can't continue to just be running in place, which is what Rauner has done for us.
Right.
We've got to make some changes. So whoever wins, there's got to be changes. I hope we can keep our majorities in the House and the Senate, and that they then understand that they're empowered to make change that will improve the quality of life.
So you mentioned a bunch of our local political officials, and I'll mention another one, Robin Gable.
Yeah, Robin,
who
my
also-
office mate, who's
Exactly.
marvelous.
And but Mr. Silverstein just got on the ballot last night.
Yeah,
I
by
guess.
2 votes, I guess. Yeah,
By two signatures.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate situation.
Yeah.
He's
He's got some.
Does he have someone running against him?
Oh, yeah.
He has 3 people.
Yeah.
And there are 2 of the 3 are really putting forth full
An effort.
campaigns. The third one is kind of running, I think, a campaign where he's looking for votes in a particular part of that district and hoping that by there being 4 candidates, he can deliver the votes that he needs to win. I mean, everybody's got a different strategy. I don't know if Ira survives this, but it's sad to see anybody kind of implode publicly as we've seen here. And the situation, I know he feels exonerated by the Inspector
petition.
General's report to the Ethics Committee, but it basically found that it wasn't sexual harassment because there wasn't an employer-employee relationship.
Right.
But the conduct was bad, and this unbecoming a legislator, while it has no penalty, it's not being found not guilty.
Right. That's right.
But we'll see how that race goes now that he's back on the ballot. I presume that the people who've gone this far challenging him will now take it to court and see if they can get him down. I mean, this was an amazing week. He was down 14, then he was up 2, then he was down 4,
1.
then he was up 1. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
now he ends up being on the ballot by 2.
Yeah. Quite a process, that whole petition thing.
Suspect.
Yeah.
Just a bit. Just finally, bringing it closer to home, the municipal election's coming up. Do you think Rom has any serious competition? And what about our local guy, the alderman of the 49th Ward, who already does have competition?
Well, I see.
Before it's even started.
At this point, I don't know who's running against Rom. I think Chewy will leave the county board and he will be a member of Congress. And by the way, I think like my former colleague,
Chewy brought these.
Okay,
That's
like
right.
my former, they're talking about the Forest Preserve
Yeah, we
calendar.
got a
Sorry.
Forest Preserve calendar
Y'all
right
should
here.
go and get your
Yeah.
2018
Larry brought them
Forest
and Chewy
Preserve
brought them
calendar.
last
Yeah,
2
well,
weeks ago.
they're beautiful pictures of the Forest Preserve, no matter how much snow we get tonight or tomorrow.
Right.
When you look at that, it'll make you feel good about the spring. But I think with Chewy going to Congress, and I think he, like my former colleague Mike Quigley, is gonna thrive in Congress. I
Right.
think that it's the right platform for his talents. So I don't know who the opponent is to Rom, and that's what we're gonna have to watch in the next year
Right.
to see who evolves, because with Chewy taking himself out of the mix, and with the people who supported Chewy being very involved in his congressional race, there's no time to see who they're gonna evolve. I think each of the aldermen is gonna have challenges up our way. I represent 49 and 50. I think Deborah Silverstein will unfortunately have fallout from what's happened to her husband, and so
Bad.
she'll be running a race for her seat, and I think Joe clearly will be running a race. And I think the issues that people are going to have to deal with is how much service did they give us? Did they get the streets paved? Did they get the garbage picked up? Are the schools better? And those will be questions that they're going to have to answer. And
In the
One
49th
other
Ward, we
question
go
was-
a little further. We
Yeah, it's
also-
gonna be like how close they are, or how much they're sitting on the mayor's lap.
well,
Well, that's one way of putting it, yes.
yeah, well, I believe in resurrection theology, and the fact that Network 49 was dormant, and then all of a sudden, like a phoenix,
Here we are.
here
we're
we are.
back.
Yeah,
Well,
so
had
it's
to.
an interesting time.
Had to find a home, a new
Right,
home in
right.
Rogers Park.
And we did endorse in our voting session. We did endorse you.
Well, I appreciate that very much.
Straw
I mean,
poll.
I like both groups in the 49th Ward.
What a
Because
politician.
I like the 49th Ward,
Well, it's a wonderful
Yeah,
ward.
we do too. Well, listen, dear, thanks a lot for getting up early and coming out
I'm
here.
always happy to be on with you guys, and I'm glad that you're continuing to do this show, because it's important to have an outlet for people to be able to talk about the issues that are important.
And for people who want to look and find Larry in our earlier shows, you can go through our archives at the youtube.com/heartlandmedia.
Just,
Indeed. You are listening to Live from the Heartland from 88.7 FM. We're going to go out to James Swanberg. I'm going out of my head. Come right back to James Swanberg, who is here live as our third guest.
good.
Right on.
He's warmed up too.
Be right back with more Live from the Heartland.